When I have more than two devices, then it is termed as multiple device. When I use networking in Java, it supports two kind of protocols. So what is protocol here? That's nothing but the rule used to govern the communication media. In Java Standard Edition APIs, we are going to have the .NET package, and the .NET package includes classes, methods, interfaces. Hello to all, a warm welcome to my new session on network programming. I'm your Revati ma'am, faculty from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So dear student, before going to start my today's session, let me to recall the topic which I have covered in my last session. So dear student, in my last session, I started with collections in Java. So what is collection? If I consider Java, collection is nothing but a small or single unit of object. Then what about collections? That is nothing but the group of objects. Along with that, I have discussed collection framework and Java Beans. Under Java Beans, once again, I have discussed Java Bean property. Along with that, I have discussed advantages as well as disadvantage. So what is Java Bean? It is a software framework used to design the software or used to write the programs. So these are the certain topic I have discussed in my last session. But in my today's session, I'm going to deal with networking. In that, especially I'm going to deal with Java networking. What are the networking packages supported by the Java program? Along with that, some of the terminology related to the Java. Along with that, I'm going to deal with socket programming. Anyway, dear student, let's start our session with the new topic, networking. Dear student, you may wondering that I'm studying Java, but why I want to study networking? What is the need of networking? So dear student, think that you have two laptops, say laptop A and laptop B. Or you have desktop system. Now, both the system want to communicate in the sense, both the system want to share the resources as well as communicate each other. Now, to communicate each other, I require networking. So, what is the term networking programming here? It refers to writing programs that execute across multiple devices. So dear student, if I consider this example, I have two devices. When I have more than two devices, then it is termed as multiple device. And it's mainly used to execute across multiple devices. So here device is nothing but the computer, that's in the sense standalone computer system or laptop, in which the devices are all connected to each other using network. Now think that I have 4 PCs. Okay, now these 4 PCs want to communicate each other. Okay, now how I'm going to communicate? What I required? I required network connection. The Java.NET package. So dear student, if I want to use networking, then I have to import net, that is Java.NET network package of the J2SE APIs. Contains a collection of classes and interfaces. In Java Standard Edition APIs, we are going to have the .NET package. And that .NET package includes classes, methods, interfaces, and that provides the low-level communication details, allowing you to write programs that focus on solving the problem at hand. So here J2SE API that includes certain methods as well as interface to support .NET programming. So here Java networking is a concept of connecting two or more system or computer device. Suppose if I want to connect more than two devices, then what I required? Obviously, I require networking. Java socket programming provides facility to share data between different computer devices. Think that I have three computer systems. Now I want to share the resource. How I am going to share? By using socket programming. Anyway, dear student, we are going to study what is socket programming and how to write socket programming. Then what is the advantage of networking? That is nothing but the sharing the resources. In the sense, think that I have a computer system. Now I have another two computer system and I have only one printer. Okay. Now I want to use, or all three systems want to access printer. So here printer is nothing but the example for resource. Now what can I do? I can able to share this printer among all three computer system by using networking. So that is nothing but the first advantage, sharing resources. Then centralized software management. So dear student, I can have centralized software management. In the sense, I can able to deploy all the softwares in any one of the system and other system can directly access the software. So what I have to do here, I have to store all the software in any one of the system. The remaining system can able to access this software. So it is centralized software management. The Java net package supports two protocols. Dear student, just remember here that when I use networking in Java, it supports two kind of protocols. So what is protocol here? That's nothing but the rule used to govern the communication media. I repeat, it is a rule used to govern or used to control communication media. And what are the two types? That is TCP and UDP. So what is TCP stands for? That is Transmission Control Protocol that provides reliable communication between sender and receiver. Dear student, just remember TCP is used to provide reliable connection between sender and receiver. Reliable in the sense what? It is connection oriented. Okay, the connections are established between sender and receiver. So TCP is used along with the internet protocol. For that reason, it is referred as TCP bar IP. So T stands for transmission, C stands for control, P stands for protocol, /IP. There's nothing but internet protocol. Now I'm going to have another protocol that is known as UDP. So what is UDP? That is nothing but user datagram protocol. What it is? User datagram protocol that provides a connectionless. Dear student, if I consider TCP, it is connection oriented, and if I consider UDP, it is connectionless. There is no physical connection between sender and receiver. So it is connectionless protocol service by allowing packet of data to be transferred along two or more nodes. Anyway, dear student, the most widely used Java networking terminologies are, these are the terminology every day we are going to encounter, that is IP address, protocol, port number and MAC address, along with that connection oriented and connection less protocol. Anyway, let me to explain IP address. So dear student, think that I have 100 system. Now I want to identify each and every system uniquely. For that, I'm going to have the identification number. So IP address is a unique number which is assigned to each node of a network. Think that, see, I have system 1 or node 1, node 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And all these nodes are connected each other through network. Okay, now I want to identify each node or each device uniquely. So I'm going to give the number 1, 2, 3, 4, it is 5 and it is 6. Okay, now dear student, if I consider this one, this is the IP address. So here, what is the length of IP address? It is 32 bit. Okay, it is 32 bit. And to differentiate, I am going to use dotted notation. Okay, so it is composed of octets that range from 0 to 255. So if I consider first half, I can able to connect 0 to 255. Next half 0 to 255. Next half it is 0 to 255. And if I consider another one, I can able to consider 0 to 255. It is a logical address that can be changed. So dear student, just remember, if I consider IP address, it's nothing but the logical address. So dear student, then what is protocol? Here protocol is nothing but a set of rules that is basically that is followed for communication. So it is nothing but the set of rules that is used to govern the communication media. Okay, so what are the example I can have? That is TCP, Telnet, SMTP. Okay, simple mail transfer protocol, telecommunication network, transmission control protocol. These are the example for protocols. Then I'm going to have port number. So dear student, if I consider any node, each node have unique port number. Okay, the port number is used to uniquely identify different application. If I want to identify different kinds of application uniquely, then I must have port number. It acts as a communication endpoint between application. So here, port number plays very important role, and it's going to act as a endpoint between applications. The port number is associated with the IP address for communication between two devices. In the sense, if I consider port number, that must be associated with the IP address that is used to communicate between two applications. Then I'm going to have MAC address. This MAC address is nothing but a physical address. And if I consider each computer node, and each node will have different MAC address. Then what is MAC here? That is media access control. And who is responsible for assigning the MAC address? That is none other than manufacturer. In the sense, during the manufacturing of the system, manufacturers are responsible for assigning the MAC address. And where we can able to find the MAC address? It comes with the Ethernet card. So dear student, MAC address is a unique identification of NIC. So what is NIC here? NIC is nothing but network interface card. In the sense, if I want to connect to system in the network, then I must have NIC in my node or in my device. So a network node can have multiple NIC. In the sense, a node can have multiple network interface card and each will have unique MAC address. So dear student, who is responsible for assigning MAC address? That is none other than manufacturing company. And where we can able to find? That is in the Ethernet card. And how to find the MAC address? So what I want to do? Just go to the command prompt and type ipconfig and I'm going to get the physical address or MAC address. So here example, an Ethernet card may have MAC address of. So this is the MAC address. And how I'm going to find? For that, I just want to visit command prompt. Okay, there I want to type ipconfig command. So what is the command? ipconfig. Now I have connection oriented and I have connectionless. Connection oriented protocol in the sense what? Acknowledgement is sent by the receiver. So what is connection oriented? Think that I have a sender and I have a receiver. It is sender and it is a receiver. Think that, okay, I'm going to send hi to receiver. When the receiver sends hi, the receiver is going to send the acknowledgement back to the sender. When the sender receives acknowledgement, the job of the sender is to send next message. So it is connection oriented. So in connection oriented protocol, acknowledgement is sent by the receiver. So it is reliable. But it is slow. The example of connection-oriented protocol is TCP, that is Transmission Control Protocol. But if I consider connectionless, we don't have any acknowledgement mechanism. In the sense, in the connectionless, we don't have any acknowledgement by the receiver. So, it is not reliable, but it is fast, and the most commonly used connectionless protocol is UDP, and the last terminology here is socket. So what is socket? It is a program. Okay, socket is an end point between two-way communication. So dear student, think that I have a client and I have a server. Okay, now if client and server want to communicate, then I have to write the socket program, that is for client as well as server. Now, what this socket? It is a end point between two application or two device. So here Java socket program is used for communication between application running on different Java runtime environment, and Java socket programming can be connection oriented or connectionless. In the sense, in Java, if I want to write socket programming, then I can able to use connection oriented protocol or connectionless protocol. Socket and server socket. So dear student, in my Java and in that network, I can have socket and server socket class are used for connection oriented. Okay, suppose if I am using connection oriented protocol, then I can use socket and server socket class. Suppose if I am using datagram So I can have datagram socket and datagram packet. So dear student, if I use TCP, then I'm going to have socket and server socket. If I use connectionless, that's nothing but the UDP. And if I use UDP, it is datagram socket and datagram packet classes. Now, the client in socket programming must know two information. So, if I consider socket programming, I have the client side as well as server side. And if I consider client side socket programming, then client must have IP address of the server and port number. Okay, so client must have IP address of server and port number. Now see here, socket class. These are the socket class and this is especially designed for TCP. Okay, a socket is simply an endpoint for communication between the machine, and socket class can be used to create socket. So what are the method I can have? That is input. First, I want to specify the access modifier. It is public. Then input stream get input. Okay. Then stream. So returns the input stream attached with this socket. Suppose if I want to know the input stream in the sense where I'm going to receive the data, okay, I must know the input stream. For that, I'm going to have the get input stream. And suppose if I want to output, if I want to send some data, then I must have get output stream. So returns the output stream which is attached with this socket. Then synchronized void close. Suppose if I want to close the socket, then I must have close. And why it is synchronized? Because it is networking program to communication between two devices. There must be a synchronization between two devices. For that, I'm going to have the keyword synchronized. Now, if I consider server socket class, a server socket class can be used to create server socket. This object is used to establish communication with the client. So dear student, this class is for client side and this server socket class is for server. Okay, and if the server socket class can be used to create a server node or server socket, this object is used to establish connection with the client. So server socket is used to establish the connection with the client. And what are the methods? That is socket accept. So what's the method name? Accept. So it returns the socket and establish a connection. Okay, if I call accept method, what's going to happen? It returns the socket and establishes connection between server and client. And I have another method called close, and it is used to close the server socket. So dear student, I have two methods, that is accept and close under server socket class. Anyway, dear student, in my today's class, I started with networking and what are the classes and what are the interfaces I can able to use to implement networking in Java. Anyway, dear student, in my next session, I'm going to deal with Unit 3. Under that, I'm going to deal with the chapter called Event and GUI Programming. Anyway, dear student, let's meet in the next session with the new unit. Until that, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.